Hi, I'm Keith, and welcome to Keith Brooks Hobbies. So now that our primer has dried, we get to start laying down the actual colors to the pieces. Now the instructions will tell you what color to paint each piece, however I don't always agree with their selection. So for instance, they want the frame to be gloss black, the suspension to be gloss black, and the axles to be gloss black. Now I for one am a huge fan of contrast. So I will definitely do the frame gloss black. I would probably do the suspension gloss black, but I want the axles to probably be more of an aluminum color, just to have that contrast so you can see where one part starts and another part ends. And that's actually probably more realistic as to how it would be, because we're going with a nice custom truck, very clean, very sleek, something you might see at like a truck show or something like that. So what I'll start doing is I'll start processing down the sprues to get like color items all grouped together. So for instance, I know that this suspension is going to be black. However, I want the suspension supports to be aluminum. So all I'll do is I'll just cut those out of there so that I can paint those separately, but while still on the sprue to have something to hold it. Simple as that. Alright, as you can see, I've got a lot of the parts processed down. I've got my paint holding sticks ready. I've also got a couple clips, and now it's just time to paint them. Montage time. One thing I want to talk to you about is preparation. Preparation, just like anything in life, the outcome is usually derived by how well you prepared for it. Same thing goes for modeling and painting in particular. When I'm using a light color such as yellow for the cat engine, I like to use a darker colored primer, which is kind of opposite of what you should be doing. The reason I do this is it gives it a natural, some natural shading effects. It looks to be a little bit used. I like to come up with a little backstory for my models. You kind of like escape into the world. It's not that I'm just building a model. So it's sometimes fun to come up with a little bit of a backstory. For instance, maybe this truck used to be a worker truck, and it was a barn find, and now you're wanting to restore it and take it to truck shows, but it's not going to be a trailer queen, so it's definitely going to be used. So I want the motor to actually show use. So for instance, by using the darker primer and then laying down the yellow for the cat engine, it gives it a nice natural shading effect, has some use looking to it, and will actually help me later on when I'm doing my touch-up and detail work. Just one thing to keep in mind when you're modeling. It's your model. You build it however you want. If you don't like how it comes out, take the paint off, do it again. Another thing that I would like to show you is how I actually have my parts dry. So I had this old scrap piece of wood that I just drilled a bunch of holes in, and then my paint sticks are just attached to the pieces, and they have plenty of room for separation. So something I was contemplating doing is all these bolts along the chassis. I was wanting to just dot them with some aluminum paint for the bolts to give some good contrast between the frame and the bolts. Even though on the actual semi, they probably would have been just sprayed black all at once anyway. However, we're going to try dotting them aluminum. If it doesn't come out, hey, we'll just paint them over black. It's little things like that are really going to set your model apart. I'm always doing some type of little touch up inside the interior, a bolt hole, just a door handle, something like that. Sometimes other parts end up covering that up, and the only person who's going to know you did it is you. But again, you can get as detailed as you want. Obviously, I won't be adding distributor wires on a diesel engine. Um, However, I want to build this model to show you you don't have to have an airbrush to make it come out nice. You don't have to actually add different things. Certainly, like I said, you can go as much as you want or as little as you want and still get a great product. In my future builds, I'll definitely show you how to do some distributor wires and things like that. But for this one, we're pretty much sticking to the instructions in as far as no customization in parts and whatnot. All right, let's install. Finally, we get to do some installation here. Let's install some front and rear axle bottoms to the suspension. And one great thing I love about the Model Master cement is this metal tube that comes out. You can really fine point where you put the glue. And it's not globby if you're doing it properly. It just, beautiful glue. I always like to dry fit my pieces, make sure everything fits properly, because sometimes when you paint, you might have to take off a little bit of paint or a hole. You might have to hollow out a hole a little bit. So files, good to have. Take off a little paint inside the hole so that they actually fit properly. Our next step is to put the fuel tank halves together. So we'll take our side cutters, cut our fuel tanks out of the sprue. And I'm sure everyone's least favorite part is scraping chrome. So we need to scrape the chrome all off of where the two halves are going to glue together. Also, where you cut the chrome pieces off of the sprue, there's usually a itsy bitsy piece where the plastic shows through. I don't know if you can really see that. But at the end, we will take a chrome pen and touch up anything of chrome on the truck that will show at the end when we have to do that. So let's get to scraping. Alright, let's get some glue on these fuel tanks and get them mated up. Now we can mount the air tanks to the back of the fuel tanks. So off camera, I've spared you from watching me scrape chrome off the fuel tanks. In all subsequent chrome pieces that require scraping, I'm just going to do that off camera as well. I think you all get the point. Just dry fit your pieces so you know what areas of the chrome you need to scrape. Also, I had to open up these holes a little bit on the frame because the paint was filled in the gap a little bit. So that's why it's always very important to dry fit your pieces. The last thing you want to do is have glue on everything, try to fit it, and it doesn't work. And then now you have glue everywhere that's drying and you need to work. It becomes a giant mess. And it will, as Bob Ross would say, you'll be in agony city.